Hello, selectors, and welcome to the Life Burst Podcast. I'm Andrew.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. Welcome.
Hi, Tiffany. How was your week, cross week?
It was great.
Tell us about it.
Let me tell you. Okay, so first of all, I'll kind of try and go in like chronological order.
Yes.
Last Sunday, I competed in my first loot card tournament because I just really wanted to play. We had played the Saturday right before and I was like kind of warmed up and I was like, you know what, let me just try this. Mm-hmm. I know I'm not going to do well. I know that I'm going to be up against like some really like strong players and I'm probably just going to get my butt handed to me, but maybe it'll be fun. You know, mm-hmm, it's only $10. Mm-hmm. I ended up getting first place.
First place?
I got first place.
Nice.
What?
With what deck?
I did it with my Umer deck.
All
right. See, I told y'all Umer was going to work one of these days. We were going to make it work, and it works. She works.
It is actually really, really good. I am surprised how good it works in the meta. Like, the deck list, when you look at it, looks like, oh, this might be a little janky, but it does find a certain line in the meta that is sort of like got a little crack in it, and it just mm-hmm. wheedles its way through.
I love it so much. I also got to play against Tommy twice.
Yeah.
And we had played against each other in the ceremony. And I just love playing against him. He's got such a great attitude. Like, shouts out to you, Tommy. You like made that ceremony and loot card like really awesome.
He was playing a very cool freeze list.
He was playing a freeze deck. Which was really difficult to play around. Actually, the first time I played him, I lost, which put him up into like the first or second place, mm-hmm. And I ended up making top 4. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going against him, playing for first in the final round. So it was kind of like a grudge match, and I really had to switch up how I was going to be playing the deck.
Yeah.
So I ended up being a little bit more assertive with Umer, which mm-hmm. luckily with that deck list, there is a little bit of flexibility with it, whereas before I was being much more defensive, and I think that ended up really working out in my favor.
Yeah, and
I wouldn't do it with every deck, though.
Let's dig into that, what you said there, a little bit more before we go into the main topic, which, by the way, guys, is going to be Welcome Back Diva cards. Mm-hmm. Let's dig into what you said a little bit there, because I think it's actually pretty good. You said you ended that game. Mm-hmm. And then you reconsidered what happened in that game. You're trying to figure out why the results were what they are.
Yeah.
And you adjusted, and in your second game against him, you managed to pull it off due to an adjustment that you've made.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of an advanced technique. Like I'm happy that you were able to do that. That's not something that your average card player does.
Well, I think I was a little bit lucky just because I got to play against the same person twice, mm-hmm. and there's no sideboarding in this game. So since we already played against each other, we kind of knew like which cards the other person had. Whereas like when you're going into a blind match, it's really difficult. And that's where you have to know the deck like the back of your hand. But when you're going up against a deck that you're already not like super familiar with, but like you kind of know how the person is going to play and what cards you can expect to see, then it's a lot easier to be like, okay, option 1 is not going to work against this deck because it didn't work the first time. So what if I go with option 2?
Yeah, and you're right. Basically trying to evolve what you did, right? Because
it's less about evolving what I did and understanding that there is a subtext to the deck that I was playing. Mm-hmm. So there's a very heavy, like we call it death and taxes. There's a very heavy discard package in Umer. So I had to take a step back and rely on my experience being a mid-range aggro player, mm-hmm. and trying to swing the ability of the deck into that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I ended up doing.
Yeah, ironically.
And I feel like in that match, the one that I ended up taking first with, I now truly understand what it means to be a tempo player.
Ooh, okay. Go ahead. If you can sum it up in like 1 or 2 sentences.
Being a tempo player means being extremely patient and biding your time and making sure that your opponent is never allowed to be patient. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
That's
you have a
that's
window
it.
of opportunity, and you're like, until this window appears, I'm not going to overcommit. I'm gonna wait here until I got it, and then once that window comes in and I identify it, I'm punching right through.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is like that. Which, let me tell you, as an aggro player, is extremely hard.
Yeah, you did go to like turn like almost 14.
I was sweating. I was sweating. All right, let's get into the topic for today. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the welcome back cards. So
Welcome back, Diva.
we've been on the, I'll be completely transparent, on the channel. We've been trying to figure out how to make the sort of like card review stuff work. And what's interesting is like we did a long card reviews where we talked about every single individual cards, and I think that helps some people. And then we swapped it into being more like just me talking a blurby about the
Blurby
about the cards that I think are going to be the good ones that are going to change or impact the meta in some way or show up in some number. And that one seemed to be better. People liked that one, I think, a little bit better. But I wanted to bring you into it, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Well, because I appreciate your point of view. You also have a little bit of a newer player point of view, so that'll help out with sort of this understanding of what maybe I'm skipping over because I just think it's super basic or something.
At this point, I don't really think it's that I have like a newer player point of view so much it is like I don't memorize cards. I don't I don't take the time to do it, and sometimes that makes things a little difficult for me, but I am a very good pilot when it comes to playing the decks, not so much building the decks or necessarily being able to like just pull cards out of my head space.
Right. So my hope is that maybe this will help you a little bit too. Just if you're reading over the cards and then we discuss them a little bit.
I'm for the jock players. That's how I like to think of it.
You know, this is an audio format, right? So for people listening to the car, they're gonna need their cards read out to them. So this is how we do it.
Hope you like the sound of my voice.
I mean, I'm gonna throw up like the slides that we've got.
Very nice
as well. But
let's get into it.
Yeah. What's our first card?
The first card is a piece. It costs 0, and it is called Garden of Singularity. It's a main phase timing, and it says, draw a card. You gain the following ability for the duration of the game. We love duration of the game cards, don't we? Constant. As you guard, you may discard 3 cards instead of discarding a card with guard.
Right, so it's a piece, it's colorless, right?
It's colorless. It also has the art of the 3 guards on it. It's so cute.
Yeah, it's very cool. And you basically can choose to discard 3 cards instead of guarding. It guards for you. It also helps that you draw a card, right? So technically the first time around it's 2 cards.
Oh.
Because you're supplying a card for you to discard.
Well, the first go around, yeah.
Right, and I think also there's some awkwardness. Again, one of the awkwardness is that you're playing, most decks are playing like Machina, Wing Slash, which basically gets you a card back from your trash to your hand, but that might put you at 5 and not 6. So you might want to also play this, and then, hey, look at that, you're at 6 cards, right? Hey, you're at that hand size, that max hand size that you want to be at for your next turn. I don't know, I'm just saying, like, it also lets you dig for a guard, which is kind of ironic.
Well, no, it says you can draw a card. That's what that says.
So you might be able to, like, I don't know, Hakat, find a card, put it on top, play this.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. I think that this card could be really fun. I would definitely have to play it to see how it goes, in my opinion. My worry with this is that discarding 3 cards is a lot.
That's right. I don't actually think this is a colorless card. I think this is a blue card.
I couldn't agree more. I was just about to say, unless you have heavy draw, or if you have heavy, like, trash recursion, this is going to be a difficult card to play.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I feel like there's better for the duration of the game cards, or just better pieces that you might be able to include, but I would be interested to see how this would play out in a blue-black deck.
Right, and I think that's actually pretty much nail on the head. The thing is, if you have a ton of cards, right, you're not using those cards, right? If you end the game with 6 cards in hand, you know, those were 6 cards in hand. And it's also crappy to lose to an Elreg attack with 6 cards in hand and nothing to do with it, right?
Yeah.
So this converts your extra resources into damage prevention, and that's good. I think this is actually more like, hey, look at that, I'm a draw deck, but I also have access to guarding on turn 1 and 2, because you know those decks that go late game and usually draw a bunch of cards are vulnerable in those early turns.
That's actually an interesting way to think about it, is that what you're doing is you're saving your guards for later in the game. So let's say you don't draw them right away, but you feel like you'll get them later on. Like they're not in your trash, they're not in your hand, they're not in your inn or wherever. They're not anywhere that you would be able to count them. Then this would be an interesting backup to be like, okay, maybe I'll draw them later in the game. Yep. Especially because the meta has been going very, very long turns.
Longer, yeah.
We said that earlier with my match against Tommy.
And that's really the thing, is like it missing a guard on turn 1 or 2 could be very crucial to those types of blue decks. So this can patch up those types of things. I also think black could potentially do it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I don't think you're gonna be playing this very often. I think you'd be playing Machina Guardian Dragon instead. And Machina Guardian Dragon is basically a little bit better than this in just a vacuum. But I think it's definitely worth it considering.
Sure.
I don't think
could be fun.
I think it's in the pantheon of colorless cards that you want to consider playing as your second piece.
All right, let's get to the next one. This is called Innocent 1-Piece. It is a white piece, and it costs 1 white to play, with main phase timing. It says, your center Larig gains the following ability for the duration of the game. This ability remains applicable even after your center Larig is grown. Action, main phase and attack phase. Exceed 4. Put 4 cards underneath your Larig. Put 4 cards from underneath your Larig into the Larig trash. Target Signy on your opponent's field loses its abilities until the end of turn. So the confusing thing to me about this card is it says action, main phase, attack phase, and exceed 4.
Yep.
Can you help us decipher that?
Sure. So it's main phase attack. It's main phase, right? You can do this during your main phase. It's also attack phase, which means that you can do it during your attack phase or during the opponent's attack phase. It's one of the rare pieces that you can actually do stuff during your opponent's during your opponent's turn. But the cost is exceed 4. So
Gotcha.
you basically exceed 4, right? You give it to the L-Rig just so that way it exists, right? Like the ability exists and you can use it at some point in time. But you exceed 4, and that will remove all of the abilities from a Signy. It's just gonna like wipe it clean, make it a vanilla, you know? So this is, I don't think worth talking about super in depth, but it's worth mentioning that it gives you some defensive utility as well as some offensive utility. It's like one of those 50-50 cards, right? Against Remember or H2O, these or Exia, all these cards that
Anything with a giant block of text.
Yeah. Any of these cards that are have a ton of text on them. You're right. Basically, turning them off is pretty good on your attack step, and then being like, and they're dead,
and you're done.
Now they're bounced because they don't have the relevant protection. You know, Notre Dame, another one.
Yeah.
During the attack phase, however, you can turn off things like Assassin or Lancer, and that's generally speaking what you'll be doing with that.
Doesn't it also affect the ability of souls?
It does, yes, because the soul gives the ability to the Signy.
So then if the Signy loses the ability, the soul's still there, but the ability is gone.
Right, so these black or red cards that
Until
when they attack
turn.
can vanish something.
Yeah.
It'll get rid of that as well. So it's a bit of a 50-50, and so it might be what the doctor order if you're looking at the deck and you're like, I still want to maintain my aggressive offensive pressure, but I need some more defensive options. What do I do? This might be an option for you.
I think this would be also interesting in an Ant Nest deck.
Yep.
Because isn't Ant Nest white as well?
Yes, it does all the same thing.
It might be interesting, a little negate deck. Yeah. You don't have to spend too much more time on it. All right, we've got 2 other pieces for your consideration. We've got a blue piece called Peeping Future. It's a blue piece that costs 1 blue, main phase timing. Hold on one second, I gotta get this a little bit bigger for myself. Okay, players are restricted to 1 total copy of a piece with a team or dream team in the Larig deck.
Yeah, hold on, let me pause you there before we go forward. So this just means, guys, this is a new thing. Dream teams are officially a term in Wixoss. We've been using it, but they're officially a term here after that. Dream teams mean that they are not what do you call it? They are not they're not a team.
team.
Right. So you're off team with them, right?
Yeah, dream team.
It also is meaning that I believe a dream team has to be 3 or more colors.
Oh, I don't think that's true.
Let me just reread it real quick.
Yeah, let's figure that out because some mono blue
No,
players
okay,
are going to be very sad.
It doesn't. Okay. It's just dream team, and then the restriction on all of these is that you have to have 3 or more colors. Just to make that clear.
Wait, so you do have to have 3 or more colors?
No, it's just
for
like
dream
like a
team?
piece, right? Like how some pieces, like Summer Lives Blues, says you need to have 2 blue L rigs.
Oh,
so this is just a restriction to these pieces in particular that we're talking about that are dream teams. But being a dream team is not necessarily being 3 or more colors. It just
so
means that
my
you're off
Umer
team.
deck counts as a dream team.
Yes.
Or a mono blue counts as a dream team.
Wrong. Yes, it does count as a dream team, but you wouldn't be able to play these pieces because the restriction on the pieces are that you have to play multiple colors.
Oh, well, we haven't gotten to that part. Hold on.
I know we haven't gotten to that part yet, but I'm just explaining something with the dream team, which is the dream team is it's okay to have a team piece and a not team piece, like just a random piece, right? Okay. Like so Innocent One, for example, that we just talked about. It's also okay to have 2 rando pieces together. That's fine without the restrictions. Mm-hmm. It's not okay to have a team piece and a dream piece together. Dream team piece together.
Okay. Yeah, you guys will be able to see the difference because on the cards, by the title of the piece, there either will or will not be that little triangle in the circle. So that symbol means it's either a team piece or a dream team piece.
Correct.
But with the pieces like Innocent One and Garden of Singularity, they don't have that, so they are not that.
Right.
Okay. All right, let me continue reading Peeping Future. Use conditions, Dream Team. You have 3 Lyrig on your field with 3 or more different colors among all members. So, no mono blue decks.
No, and you can't be a 2-color deck. You've got to be a 3-color deck.
You can't be a 2-color deck, yeah. Target level 3 Lyrig on your field gains the following ability until end of turn. Auto, once a turn. When this Lyrig attacks, look at your opponent's hand and choose a card. Your opponent discards it. During your opponent's next up phase, your opponent cannot up their center Lyrig unless they pay 3 colorless or anything.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I like this piece a lot. It doesn't have a lot of homes, I don't think, because the homes that it really wants to be in are usually double blue decks or double white
I
and the blue
was just
deck.
thinking I'm devastated this can't go in my Umer deck.
So it's a little sad that doesn't work for them, but it is it's very good. I mean, if you were to tell me that my deck could play basically blue, discard a guard from your opponent's hand because it can snatch guards,
but also keep your Lyrig downed.
Yeah, and also basically draw a guard. I guess, right, is what I'm trying to say. Is like it lets you guard and snatches a guard. It's pretty good. I like that. You need to be an aggressive blue deck to want to pull that off.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see how people play this. I do think that out of the pieces we've talked about so far, I feel like this is one that people will try and build in the most into their upcoming decks.
Yeah.
Just because we've seen a lot of blue, we've seen a lot of discard, and, taxing your opponent to up their Lyrig is not a bad move either.
Yep.
There's very few things that keep a center Lyrig down.
Yep.
All right, next one. We've got Entwined Supremacy. It is a red piece. It costs 1 red to play with main phase timing. This is also a Dream Team piece. So it says, use conditions, Dream Team, you have 3 Lyrig on your field that are 3 or more different colors among all members. Same thing as the last one. Target level 3 Lyrig on your field gains the the following ability until end of turn. Auto, once a turn. When this Lyrig attacks, crush one of your opponent's life cloth. If your opponent chooses to use the life burst on that card, you may pay 2 anything. If you do, that card's life burst does not activate. Oh my lord. Yeah, that is so aggressive.
It's basically like we have I don't know, I guess it's not we have. It's just Glory Grow, but anyone can play it now.
Man.
So I think Glory Grow is a good thing to compare this to, right? And if I were to say, it says crush an opponent's life cloth, right? And Glory Grow basically gives your Elrig double crush.
Well, it gives a double crush and the opponent can't guard.
Right.
You can guard this.
you can't guard this.
Where on earth does it say? Oh, because it just says crush an opponent's life cloth.
Correct.
Oh. When it attacks, you just do it anyways.
Right.
So that means that if the attack goes through, you could technically crush 2 life cloth, because you have one which is the ability of the piece, and then one which is the ability of the actual Larig.
The actual attack, yeah.
Yeah, yes. But would people end up paying the 2 to not get the life burst to go off?
Would the aggro player play it? Probably. It depends. Like if they look at it and it says something like, I don't know, you're right. Who knows? The answer is who knows.
I'm just trying to think of the average aggro's inner zone.
Sure, but
like do they? I don't know.
But would you care if you were playing Glory Grow anyways that the person hit two life bursts?
Probably not.
Yeah, that's what I think. So
I mean, unless they're yeah, because even at that point, most life bursts are trying to stop attacks or interact with the field before the Larig attacks.
Right.
So in my mind, I might not even bother paying for it. It would really have to depend on what it is.
Like if there's something that says negate the Elrig's next attack, you might pay for it because you're like, well, I'm still attacking, so I'd rather.
Man, and this is auto once a turn for your level 3 Larig.
Once to be clear.
No. Auto once a turn.
Right. It says
which
until
means
till end of turn. It only activates once a turn.
Yes.
Until end of turn, and then
for the rest of the game.
That's not true. Read it again.
Hold on. Target level 3 Larig on your field gains the following of... Oh my goodness. Okay. No. I was so concerned. No. I was like, no.
We're not double crush for the rest of the game.
I know that red did not just get a Nova ability to be able to attack twice. I know that did not happen. No. Oh my goodness, that would be insane. Thank goodness. Well, glad I'm wrong.
So it's literally Glory Grow. But
it basically is.
It doesn't have the guard on it. And the question is how much better is Glory Grow than that? I think Glory Grow is a little better than this.
In your opinion?
Yeah, but I don't think it's so much better that I will have to play No Limit. Like, this is, I think, actually a detractor against No Limit, because now any good red deck could play basically like No Limit's game plan.
I suppose so. I think this one's better than Glory Grow.
Okay, that's super fair.
Because you can pay to stop a life burst, and in Glory Grow, not only can you not stop life bursts, you have 2 going off at the same time at the discretion of your opponent.
Yeah, I will say that with Glory Grow, right, they can't guard, so it's guaranteed 2 damage no matter what, whereas this one they can guard the actual attack itself. So it's a guaranteed 1 damage, not 2 damage.
I guess so. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below.
So let's talk about the next one.
All right, we've got another Dream Team piece. It's called Miasma Labyrinth. Very fancy. This one's a little bit more expensive though. It costs 1 black, 2 anything with main phase timing. Since it's a Dream Team, it's got the whole you have 3 Larigs of 3 different colors. It says choose one of the following for each of your center Larig levels. Target Signy on your opponent's field gets minus 12,000 power until end of turn. Put target Signy from your trash onto your field. Add target Signy from your trash to your hand. Each player puts the top 7 cards of their deck into their trash.
No. So you're probably playing this level 3, and you get 3 of these effects. Remember, it's kind of like Death Deck where you can't choose the same
one twice. Right. Yeah, so you have to choose 3 different ones.
So I think a really important part is that put a Signy to your hand ability.
It doesn't say it can't be a guard.
It does not say that it can't be a guard. So I mostly would be using this to mill my opponent, put a guard into my hand, and then kill something. If you really wanted to go for the kill, or the opponent's not really going to be affected by that mill at all, then you also could read it as put a Signy onto the field that's going to open a lane with the damage or with the negative 12,000, and then put a guard into your hand. So 3 enter to open 2 lanes and put a guard into your hand is also really good.
I do think it's a fair price. It's definitely not worth it to play it anytime earlier than your level 3.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I cannot think for any deck why you would not wait on this piece. So that's one thing I want to note. Let's see. Target Signy gets minus 12,000. Put target Signy in the trash field.
I think the card's fantastic. I think it's one of the best pieces that have been printed.
You really think it's great?
Yeah, I liked Death
It is
Deck,
expensive.
and this is like Death Deck Plus.
How much was Deck Deck?
Same price, but you also had to mill up
I
to
definitely
20
just
cards.
said Deck Deck.
Deck Deck.
Deck Deck.
You had to have 20 cards in your trash to function it. Mm-hmm. So it was just awkward. You couldn't do it with flexible timing. This you could do whenever.
I think it's a shame that it's a... Well, I suppose it's fine. Black has had pretty good results in the meta so far.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Yeah. If you think it's great, then I trust you. Maybe it's just because I haven't played enough Black that I'm like, it's expensive, but it does do a lot. Like, for 3 enter, you get 3 different things going on. You can open up to 2 lanes. You can get a guard back. I don't see any downside with this, really.
It's the late game killer to me, right?
For
like
sure.
You play this on turn 4, and you're like,
this is your end game.
You're going to die to this mill at some point, right? Mm-hmm. You might be playing Falars, so that might be this turn. You're opening up 1 or 2 lanes, and you put a guard back into your hand so that on your next, so you have even more time to spend in this. It's just a late game killer, right? Yeah. You will own the late game if you play this.
It almost feels like, oh man, what is that called? Ancient Echo or Harmonic Call. Mm-hmm. From the Ancient Surprise sets, where it's sort of that piece that it is more expensive, but this is kind of like your okay, we're finishing the game now kind of piece.
Yeah. I'd say 3 is a lot different than 8.
You know, the costs were just super weird back then. It was a whole thing. Anyways, that seems to be it for our pieces. Let us know what you guys think in the comments section down below.
Editing Andrew here. So we forgot Tama, which feels like a big oversight. Tama's from the White Hope intro deck list that you can get, but I just wanted to throw it on here real quick and just talk about it. So Tama's an interesting Elrig, being that it can play mono white or it can play mid-range. It could do either of those things pretty easily. Its ability is as follows. It's a level 3 white Elrig, costs 2 to grow, of course. Its auto once per turn ability is when this Elrig attacks, you may down 2 upped Signy on your field and pay a white or a colorless, white and a colorless. And if you do, you up this Elrig, and this Elrig loses all of its abilities till end of turn. Its enter effect is that you can look at the top 4 cards of your deck, add 2 of them from among them to your hand to put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. And then the last ability is this Elrig gains auto. It's once per game, by the way. The Elrig gains the ability of auto once per turn. When this Elrig attacks, up all the Signy on your field till end of turn, which feeds into its first ability. So you can go ahead and play this, do its ability, attack with all of your Signies, have them auto up, and then you will be able to do pay 2 and attack twice with your Tama. So, is this card good? I think the answer is yes. I think it's better in a mid-range strategy. That's not to say that mono white aggro is not a good choice to put this card in as well. I think if you do either of them, they're probably going to be pretty good options for you to do. Whether this is better in mono white than the Akino is debatable, and you can make that decision if you want to or not play to your play style. I think that this is very good in the fact that if the world ends up getting more Madoka claps, sorry, not Madoka claps, MC line disrespects that stop things from attacking, it's more white. This is a counter to that kind of thing. This also is a counter to stuff like Exia and whatnot, like just having a lot of Signy that's difficult to deal with and go over. So this can be a better reach for aggro decks than what aggro decks normally have, or mid-range decks if you're trying to enter starve them a little bit by not necessarily attacking them straight out with this. So yeah, that's what I think it is. I think it's pretty good. And I would probably think you're going to see a lot of this in the future coming your way.
And now we will be moving on to our Signies.
Yeah, let's go for it. I think this is the chase card of the set, personally. But...
This one coming up? All right. It is a white card. It is a level 3 Signy. Remember, Memoria Code Heart. Mectone Electronics.
Yeah, the fun thing about the next things that we're going to be reading is these are Signy versions of Elrigs that we've seen in the old series.
Yeah.
Remember is the...
Do you remember?
I remember. I remember the 5th Remember, level 5 Remember.
Stop.
Remember is a total jerk in the original series.
That's right.
But yeah, so go for it.
All right. She's got a couple different abilities on her. Constant, during your opponent's turn, use costs of the action abilities of your opponent's center Larig and Signy are increased by 1. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, that means souls. That means like Tamago's once per game. Anyone's once per game.
Anything that is an action on a center Larig or a Signy. That's a lot.
Yep.
All right. She's got something else going on too. Constant, as long as this Signy is downed, this Signy gets plus 3,000 power, and your opponent cannot guard unless they pay an additional 1. Wow. Also...
What's 3,000 power plus its power right now?
That's a 15k.
It's huge.
It's rude. Also, this card has action. Down this Signy. Look at the top card of your life cloth.
Yeah, arguably the lesser used ability, but if you decided you didn't want to attack that turn, right? But you also don't want to get killed by vanish target up effects or something,
sure.
then you could use this. It also lets you peek at your life cloth, which you could be like, oh, I have folklore there. Cool, I'm not going to grow my assist Elrig next turn. You're good.
Yeah, that is interesting. It also has a life burst ability. Like, this card is loaded to the teeth.
Yeah, it's got lots of text.
Lots of text. Choose one. This is the life burst. Choose one. Return target up Signy on your opponent's field to its owner's hand, or draw a card. It's a fantastic life burst. It's got a ton of stuff going on. I mean, what? Like, if you are running any sort of white in your deck, find a way to put this in there, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, tax, first of all. I mean, the first text alone, this card could have nothing else on it.
I agree.
Could have nothing else. And if you just had the first constant ability during your opponent's turn,
yeah,
use
I probably
blah,
play
blah,
it.
blah. I mean,
taxing souls is just good enough on its own.
It's just what? Like, even because isn't even Ott's center ability? It's an action.
Once per game, so it's an action, yes.
Well, no. The
yeah, it's an action.
What's
the wiping the board?
Oh yeah,
that's an action.
God, that's already so expensive.
Yeah, it turns it up to 8. Yeah, Umir's Hastilic is an action. It would cost you 1 to put out that. You'd be taxed for your taxing.
Excuse me, that's not the way that's gonna work.
Tax on your tax.
I don't think so. All right, but I mean, that sounds like a great card.
15k attacker, 15k blocker.
It's as
really
long
good.
as the Signy is downed, it gets plus 3,000.
Right. What do you do when you attack?
I mean, you down it.
Exactly. So it's 15k
so
on the attack.
Basically on
and
your
the
opponent's
defense.
turn. I mean,
the only thing that's negative against it is it's in white and it's a Nobo with Exia. Exia ups all your stuff.
it still's at 12k naturally.
I know.
I mean, it's like
it's not much of a Nobo.
This is I mean, I know I'm going to end up playing this card, but I feel offended at how good this is.
It's a solid
even though
4-of.
it's probably going to go in my deck, but also the feeling that it's going to go in a lot of other people's decks makes me like, dang.
And that's actually what I want to bring up a card that is not on your list just because the English version didn't get put out yet on Facebook, so I just didn't put it on the list. But
sure.
I think it's worth talking about, and that's Yuki. It's a level 1, 3,000 powered level 1 3,000 powered white Signy, and it has an enter the battlefield effect, and it lets you choose one of the two. Either you can move a Signy from one Signy zone to a different Signy zone. That Signy zone would have to be open in order for you to move it into it, or you can remove all abilities from target Signy till end of turn. Right. So that card's good, and that card's good because this card's good, because you'll be able to play this, remove all of its effects, it drops down to a 12,000, you'll be able to vanish it now, right? Or you'll play that and hit an H2O, the H2O now is not as sticky anymore, and then you'll be able to get rid of it, right? Another thing that it can do, which is kind of annoying, is you can open up a lane and then be like, Bruno, you can live in the left lane now, and watch her just crush blue players' dreams there. and just leave it there for him.
Oh.
So it's got good relevant abilities, and pretty good specifically because I think this is the card that people are going to try to jam in every single one of their decks.
God, I would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you're absolutely going to jam this in Umir. What are you talking about? It taxes everywhere.
I know. Oh, it's gonna suck to play against, but dang if it isn't going in my deck. Alright, moving on. We've got... I know I'm gonna mess up this name, but what else is new on this podcast? Cola? I'm gonna go with Coella, Aquatic Phantom Queen. Level 3 Signy, also a white, but it looks blue. Don't be fooled.
It's a water beast.
It is an aquatic phantom beast. It's also got 12,000 power and a ton of text. Let's go through it, shall we? Auto, at the beginning of your attack phase, if you and your opponent have the same number of life cloth, draw a card. Interesting. Auto, once a turn. During your opponent's turn, when a Signy attacks, target Signy on your opponent's field loses its abilities until end of turn. So we have more ability negating. Mm-hmm. It also has an enter effect. Enter 1 white. Look at the top... Sorry, it's enter and you must pay 1 white. Because of where the colon is.
No, you can pay 1 white. It's just with the way that things are, if they have a cost, you can choose to not pay them. So.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You can do it.
All right. Enter 1 white, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add up to 1 card from among them in... Sorry, this is like... I always get mixed up. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add up to 1 card from among them into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. It also has a life burst. Put target up Signy on your opponent's field into its owner's trash.
Yes. So the trashing on that life burst is cool, but the fact that it doesn't have a use case if everything's downed sucks. So
I suppose so, but this is probably one of the cards that you don't want to see in your life cloth. It is much more useful on the field.
I agree. It's one of those, again, we don't have a lot of Signy that have defensive utility or defensive positioning, which is something that We Cross likes. Right? And this is one of those cards that can do that because it can turn off abilities on your opponent, which means that if it's alive and your opponent has a soul attached to something and they don't get rid of it, then you can turn that soul's ability off. You can get rid of things like Assassin or Lancer as well. Mm-hmm. So it's generally speaking, I like it. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think the first text is interesting, where it's if you and your opponent have the same number of life cloth, draw a card. I actually don't think that's that bad. Like, I don't think it's a throwaway ability.
About 50-50 shot.
Yeah, because most We Cross games are usually very close.
Yep.
Like, you're only, like, it's only ever, like, plus or minus 1 in the life cloth, if not even.
Yep.
If you're both playing, like, to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's, like, a throwaway text, which I think it could be easily overlooked.
And then drawing a card when you play white through some filtering. Look, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
We've all seen how that type of effect works. It's good.
Yeah, this will be interesting with other white cards that turn off abilities, I think.
Yeah, definitely a solid card, I think.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the next one. Another white card.
Yeah, can you see how much white this set is getting? I really
Where
want to point that out.
Where is the green?
Oh, we do have 1 green card. We have 2 green cards on here. This
okay.
Which, by the way, is
looking forward to
I know.
that.
I know the bar is set really low for green because the last 2 sets I basically didn't talk about green at all. The fact that it got anything this set's good. But I really
just for green.
I really want to stress before we get into this card. There's so much good white cards getting printed, which is why mono white may have been a little bit RNG-ish last set. Not anymore. Mono white after the set, real threat. You guys should be prepping for it.
All right. To be fair, I have seen an uptick in mono white, and it is not a shy deck anymore.
Yeah.
All right.
It is funny that one of our locals, Madison, is like all about it now. She's like, she played another deck last night. Finally, played like something different than mono white. Played like 2 games with another deck and was like, no, I want to go back to my mono white.
All right. We've got a white Signy, level 3, 10,000 power. Osiris, Code Ancients, Mectone Legacy.
I like the art. There's a lot of cool, like, what do you call it?
Borders.
Yeah, borders in it.
I enjoy the more borderless look. Auto, at the beginning of your attack phase, you may pay 2 white. If you do, return target Signy on your opponent's field with a level less than or equal to the number of white Labyrinth on your field to its owner's hand.
It's a mono white deck card. Like, so if you have 3 white Elrigs on your team, then you can bounce a level 3 or below. If you only have 2, you can bounce a level 2 or below. That's the way that's written.
Okay.
So basically, like, if you have 3 white Elrigs because you're playing a mono white team, right? Then you can pay white and bounce a level 3 or less back to the opponent's hand. But if you only had 2, right, because you're playing, I don't know, Madoka, and you're playing 2 white Elrigs in the back end, then you can only do 2 or less.
Okay. Action, 1 white. It's also another Signy that's got like 3 different things going on. This one does not have a life burst though. Another ability it has is action, 1 white. This Signy gains constant. During your opponent's turn, this Signy gains shadow until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So for a turn and a half?
No, it's during your opponent's turn. But yes, it lasts that long. So that
until
way
your opponent's next end phase.
Yeah. It just basically gains Arcwane's ability of shadow until end of turn.
Okay. Oh lord. Action. 2 white, 3 anything. Remove this card in your trash from the game. Add target Signy with a guard from your trash to your hand. What?
That's really
no.
expensive. That's really expensive.
That is ridiculous.
That
is like Influence D levels of ridiculous.
I agree. You're never really going to use it. It's fine, I guess, that the option is there. Look, the reason why I'll play this card is simply because white does not have great main deck ways to get rid of to open up lanes. All of their lane opening exists in the Elric deck, right? And this basically says, even if it's on only a 2 white team, right? 2 Elric white team, it basically says you can open a lane, right? And for 2 enter. And that's something white has just not had access to easily.
Yes.
So you can play this
or had more shadow, so this is getting more shadow.
Yeah, but it has shadow on your opponent's turn, which is, I hate that, but fine.
Yeah. That's such a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Like, that really is, like, you are on the ropes and you just happen to have the enter, so you pay for it and it, like, maybe wins you the game.
Right. You use this if you're like, I'm just going to need a way for this to stick around for a turn, or I just need to deny a damage here from a Souls deck or something. So it's there. It'll get used, I think, 50% of the time.
All right.
But it's just really all you need to know. It's a level 3 in white that bounces a Signy. That's rare. So it'll get used some amount because of that.
All right. Moving on. Oh, look, another white Signy. Who knew? This
one's Anthony's suggestion, by the way. He was like, do not have your best cards without putting this card on. I was like, all right, fine.
We'll see about that.
He's excited about it.
It is a level 2 white Signy with 8,000 power. Saku, Blessed Evil. Idle Tone Demon. It's very cute art. Auto, at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you may put this Signy on your field into its owner's trash. If you do, target Signy on your opponent's field gains constant. This Signy cannot attack until end of turn. It has a life burst ability that says target Signy on your opponent's field gains. The Signy cannot attack until end of turn. Draw a card. This does seem pretty solid.
Yeah, I think so.
Nice level 2.
If you're in the market for a defensive white deck, Nova, then you'll probably be like, yeah, this is pretty good. This does a lot of what Ant Nest does, but is also kind of does the job, right? You can pair it with Ant Nest as well. Again, it's rare to have defensive board positioning in Wixoss, and it's good to have defensive board positioning.
I suppose so. It just seems a little odd because you're opening a lane on your end, and like, yes, you're preventing damage by saying the Signy cannot attack until end of turn. It ends up going into your trash instead of your enter.
That's correct.
So I don't know if I would rather just let it die to get the enter out of it than just giving my opponent like an ability.
Well, I guess would you spend 1 enter to save yourself from a damage?
Sure.
Okay, and that's like that. You're spending this enter to make sure you don't die to an attack.
I don't know. I think that's kind of messing with the flow of, like deck to hand to field to enter to trash.
Yeah,
now you're just going field to trash when
Right.
you could go field to enter to trash.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't know if it's the greatest card in existence. I just think you'll see some number across the table of this.
Probably. The life burst ain't bad. The Signy cannot attack until end of turn and draw a card. That's
Yeah,
pretty nice.
Wait till you see the next one's life burst.
Uh-oh. All right. Getting into blue, we've got a level 1 blue Signy with 3,000 power. Futase...
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Futase, Memoria, Azure Beauty, Idle Tone Beauty. Constant, during your opponent's turn, as long as the number of cards in your hand is greater than or equal to the cards in your opponent's hand, this Signy gains Shadow, level 2 or less Signy. Oh, that's pretty nice.
So it's a Zhao Yun if you have more cards in the
It's
hand than your
interesting, especially for a level 1. That's a pretty high chance.
opponent. Yeah, I mean, also it's blue, so
It's
if you're
blue.
playing blue, you might have more
It's
cards.
blue. Yeah, got it. Life Burst. Here we go. Whenever target Larig or Signy on your opponent's field attacks this turn, negate that attack unless your opponent discards 3 cards. Are you serious?
I thought you'd like that one.
What a reverse tax! Excuse me.
Yeah, and if you're blue and you're basically already saying the opponent has less cards in hand than you because you're making them discard, it's a guaranteed way to survive damage.
Whenever target, you could negate anything.
Yeah, so
Everything.
So, like if your opponent, you know how like you run into a situation where you have these down target Signy, like life bursts, and they've attacked with all 3 of their Signy, and you're like, well, that's, I guess I draw a card or something, right? This in those scenarios be like, all right, well, I'm going to target your Elrig. Your Elrig hasn't attacked yet. So you still are going to prevent a damage. There's a high chance that you're going to prevent at least 1 damage with this.
Yeah.
I mean, discarding 3 cards is a real tax.
I mean, we've discussed that earlier, where it's like, wow, why that's a lot for when we were discussing Garden of Singularity. My lord. Ooh, that's nasty to play against.
And look, a Zhao Yun's good, right? A Zhao Yun can stop damage. So this is basically a blue Zhao Yun if you are a deck that's got more cards in hand.
Yep.
Going to the next one, though, we talk about all the walls of text we've been dealt with.
This is refreshing.
This is the lack of walls
This
of
is
text.
basically a tall glass of water for my eyes. All right, we've got another level 1 blue Signy, power 2,000. Sui Memoria Azure General. I think that's how you say that. Or Saui.
Sui.
I think I'm going to say Sui. Idle Tone Brave. Enter. Discard up to 2 cards. Draw a card for each card discarded this way. That was so easy to read.
I know.
What a nice change of pace.
Right?
We've also seen this ability before.
Yes, we've seen this
seen
ability.
it in blue and red.
We've seen it in red, and it has actually been used a lot in red. We've seen it in blue a little bit, not as deep as this, right? In blue, it's usually 1 card. This one's 2 cards deep, which is cool. And remember, it says up to, so you could discard 1 card and draw a card if you want to do that.
Or
as
none
well.
if you don't want to.
Also true. But I think this card is actually very good. And the reason why is if you're a blue-black deck, you actually kind of want to stock your trash up with stuff. And this gives you the ability to stock your trash up with things. There's also a lot of things in blue that wants to see you either drawing cards or wants to see you either discarding cards. A good example would be Firefly Squid. Loves to see that you've discarded cards in order for its ability to trigger. And the new Ray, as well as the old Ray, wants to see you drawing cards in order for its ability to trigger. So I think it's very good there, too. It's not exactly Hakat. And I think there is...
well, no, it doesn't. It does something completely different than Hakat does.
When we were talking about Hakat in our Discord, you and I, with the Atlanta locals, you made a really, really good statement on what decks would prefer to use Hakat, which decks would prefer to use this Sui. And I think it's actually pretty valid to think that maybe there would be decks that run both of them as well.
Yeah, I think you would put this in either or, but not both.
I think there are sometimes you put them in both. But I think
Agree to disagree.
I think sometimes you'll want to lean more heavily into one versus the other.
Yes.
The thing that you said was that Hakat sets yourself up for filtering to get something better, right? And this doesn't filter, but it does do discard effects, draw cards effects, and stocking your trash.
Yeah.
I think there are
Those are two
sometimes
different
where if you're
abilities.
like, I don't know, playing a green-blue deck that you might want to have even more ways to make your green more consistent because green's not a great color. So you might need to get the right cards when you need to. So this might be another way that you do that. People criticize red like for a bunch of like they're like, oh, that doesn't really do anything. But I've played those red decks where you're like discarding cards to draw cards, and it's like this is the option I've been dealt with, and this is fine. It's actually very good to dig yourself into an answer.
Yeah, no, I agree. Anytime that you're like, this hand is like okay, and you can kind of filter some stuff out of it, especially early on.
Yeah.
Or if you draw this in the far late game, this is usually a benefit to have. All right. There's a lot of cards on this
You're right.
slide.
Okay, so you only need to read the life burst.
I'm not wearing my
of
glasses.
one of them. Just the life burst of one of them because it's the same life burst on all 5.
Oh,
of them.
thank goodness. You're so kind to me. All right. As for those of you that are watching, we have 5 different colors of this life burst. We got all 5. The life burst is look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Add up to 3 cards from among them into your hand. Put the rest of them on the bottom of your deck in any order. That is a huge dig.
Right. We said when we were reviewing life bursts way back when, which is another video you guys can watch, top 10 life bursts in Wheatcross. When we were saying, how many cards do you need to draw before it's a good life burst? And we said 1 card is okay, and then we were like 2 cards are like, yeah, it still sucks you're not dealing with the battlefield. You know, you're not affecting the board at all with this. But 2 cards does help, right? 3 cards.
Imagine what 3 cards
I think 3
does.
cards. I'm like, it's fine that I'm not dealing with the battlefield at that point.
I mean,
3 cards is so many.
how many? Okay, but here's the other thing. In this set, what we've discussed so far today, how many times have we seen a cost of discard 3 cards?
Yeah.
Like, a lot.
But you're right. There's a lot of discard happening, and this.
But I mean, this is refilling your hand
Exactly.
on curve
know.
with the rest of the
And
set.
it usually happens after you've been smacked, right? Which means that usually it happens after the discard happens. So the opponent could discard you out to 0 cards, hit you with this with their L-Rig, right? You now draw 3 cards, then you draw 2 cards at the beginning of your turn. That opponent who's spending this entire time discarding you down is just like, you have a full hand again. Oh.
Can you imagine, like, pairing this with a Xeno cluster? Oh my god.
Right, but this does what a Xeno cluster does.
I mean,
it really
does.
It's just discard insurance. And some
Not
decks...
to mention, like, it's not just draw 3 cards, though. It's you draw 5 and you pick 3 out of them.
Yeah, totally.
That's better than some of the other card filtering we've seen, even with something like MC Lion.
Yeah, you're like, I'm always going to hit stuff on curve.
That's crazy.
And some decks need this, right? Like, so X doesn't draw cards very well. And this is a way that it can do that. Green decks also struggle with it. I think the green and red version are probably the best version on the list of 5.
I mean...
white, blue, and black have other solid ways to draw cards, so they don't need this as much.
This is more beneficial to red and green, you mean. Yeah. Also, these are all you've got 1 in every color, so everybody gets 1 of these in their respective colors. It is a level 2 Signy with 10,000 power. Incredible. We love to see it. All right, this one looks fun. Give me a moment to sound out this name. It is a red Signy level 2, 12,000 power. That's a buff Signy. Lalaru Memoria Code Art. Rise Mectone Electronics.
Yep. It is a Rise Signy.
It is a Rise Signy. There's a couple things going on as well as a life burst. So Rise, as many of you know, is when you put a card on top of a Signy. Looks like this one has a stipulation of place on top of a level 1 Signy on your field. So you can't put it onto a level 2 or 3, whatever. But the color doesn't seem to matter. It's just a level 1.
Yeah.
Constant, this Signy cannot gain new abilities by your opponent's effects. Seems pretty useful.
Yeah, the most relevant one that we'll discuss is can't attack this turn.
Mm-hmm. Auto, whenever this Signy attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Life Burst, you may discard a card. If you do, vanish target Signy on your opponent's field with power 12,000 or less. That's pretty good.
Yeah, is it okay, Life Burst?
Yeah. Especially with all the other like drawing and discarding that we've seen, but that's kind of like typical with red.
Yeah.
They do actually like a little bit of discard with a refill on the back end.
So you'll find that red decks will probably be interested in playing this. Probably not as a million of, and they'll probably be more interested in playing this if they have a way to silver bullet it. So maybe go to the top, or more likely probably Machina Smash, or Trigger a Victory, which can recur something back from the trash to their hand.
I have a question about this though.
Yes.
So is this immune to the ability negation of some of the white cards we've seen? If it's losing an ability, is that...
No, it's not immune to it.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to clarify that, because I don't know if losing your ability is an ability.
Yeah, no, it's not.
It's not an additional ability.
It's not like Vanilla Eyes. Anything with Vanilla Eyes loses all other abilities and becomes vanilla. You know,
right.
Like, it's not like that.
It's not like that.
It's
okay, it's
just
not overriding
erases
it. It's just erasing it.
Yeah,
That's good to know.
So yes, that still works. But there are some amount of green, for example, effects that say target Signy, negate their attack this turn. So it can't gain that as well.
Okay. Very good. Interesting, Rise Signies.
I guess there's also like Machina Binds, right? Which says target Signy gains the following ability. If it attacks, it gets negative 20,000 until end of turn. So that wouldn't be able to kill this either.
Oh. Well, that's good to know too. Also, it's interesting that we're seeing a level 2 Signy with Rise. Usually that's on level 3s.
Yeah,
Am I correct?
We've seen a level 2 Rise before in black, and it wasn't very good. It certainly this is worse because of it. I would have rather I would have rather an 8,000 stat line or something, and not had the Rise ability. But it's just something that you're gonna have to consider now. Is being like, all right, I'm running 2 Nobunagas, 4 spells, 2 other spells, and then 4 of these. It's like, yeah, that's not gonna work out for you.
All right, moving on to another level 2. This one's green. Hey,
You did it.
There it is. Level 2, 8,000 power. Ai Memoria, second play, Wartone, Amuser. Well, that's a new one.
That's a good one for Ott, because Ott doesn't have any Amusers yet.
I don't think there are any Amusers.
I think there's one. I think actually
This one.
I think Hamlin might be an Amuser.
Is it?
I'm gonna check.
Oh yeah, you
while
go
you're
ahead and
talking.
check. This one has an action down this Signy. Put target Signy from your enter zone onto your field. I love this. I love the idea that you can play Signy from your enter zone. It is
Hamlin's
something.
a trickster. I'm wrong.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't think that's right. I really wish that this was a bigger mechanic. Like I wish that this was a more present mechanic, where you could play Signy from your enter zone, so you can treat your enter zone not only as the ability to like pay costs, but also an extension of your hand. Hello, that seems like a good ability to me.
Right.
I love this.
It gives green, and we've talked about this before when we were in our last podcast where we talked about green being good. It gives green consistency.
Yes.
And that's something that you want. Consistency in your decks.
Really? I want one of every different card for my deck. I want...
That feels like an Ott deck right there.
Almost. Yeah, no, this one seems like a solid choice. I'm interested to see what green players will be putting this into their deck and how they'll be using it.
And it's worth mentioning that this could be, and I think that's another thing to note, is actually this can be not a green card. Like you can play this in decks that aren't green, right? But need to hit a certain number of green in order to play a Bang de Capo in the Elrig, or in the next set after this one, Mel in the Elrig slot as an assist. So 2 of these plus 4 Akufukus makes you hit your green requirement for a green splash. And it helps because it's like, it's not really a a card that you're going to use all that often. And it can get you other cards. So it basically creates air in the deck, which can help you, right? Because if you're like, well, I'm running a 2 of these in my deck, so my deck is actually a 38 card deck. That means that my chances of hitting or getting extra copies of the card I really need is higher.
You know what this feels like to me? This feels like Polygenesis, except it's a Polygenesis that you can put on your field and block an attack with.
Yep.
And what's even better is that Polygenesis was to recur a green Signy unless you were playing the team.
Yep.
This one does not have that stipulation.
Yep.
You can get any card back from your enter zone and put it onto the field.
Target Signy.
Put target Signy, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no color stipulation or anything.
Oh, I see color stipulation, yeah. Yep.
All right.
It's just better.
It is better.
And also, Polygenesis costs a green and takes a card from your enter into your hand. So technically, it costs 2 enter to do the effect. This only technically costs 1 enter because you're stealing a card from. You're still paying an enter technically because you're taking the card from the enter.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how people choose to play this card.
All right, 2 cards left.
2 cards left. Woo! We've got. Oh, look at this one. It is a black Signy, level 3, 10,000 power, Tama Memoria, Doomed Angel Queen.
Yep.
This is Black Tama.
It is Black Tama. It's evil Tama.
She pretty. I like the wings in her hair. All right, let's get into it. She also has a block of text and a life burst. Here we go. Constant, as long as you have 10 or more cards in your trash, this Signy gets plus 3,000 power and gains Shadow, level 2 or less Signy.
It is worth mentioning that would make her a 13k. And also, it doesn't say during your opponent's turn. It says it gets Shadow.
It's a constant ability.
Correct. So it is during their turn, but also this is one of the rare times that you have Shadow on your turn.
Ooh, we love that. We love that a lot. Level 2 or less Signy. Gotcha.
Usually means life bursts. It doesn't die to life bursts when.
Oh yeah.
It's attacking.
Constant. This Signy on your field and enter zone are additionally black. Oh, sorry, not this Signy. Constant Signy on your field and enter zone are additionally black.
Yeah, that is weirdly relevant. It lets you skimp out on black costs and still be able to pay for black things. So it lets you be a little greedy on your enter.
Yeah, but that's only if it's on the field.
Correct.
It's not like the Cosmos deck where it's like everything is a level 1.
Everything is black enter.
Everything is black enter. It's not quite like that. So I don't know if it would be smart to build that around your curve.
No, I think you should always be, even with this card, be like, no, I'm trying to make sure that my enter is good. But I think that it's an option. And I think that, like, for example, the Deus aggro deck, generally speaking, is 20 black cards and 20 non-black cards, red cards. So this helps in that scenario. Be like, look, it feels fine now.
All right. Auto, once a turn, when a black Signy leaves your field outside of your main phase, put the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck into their trash. When a black Signy leaves your field outside of your main phase. So that would be like during the defense step or on your opponent's turn?
Yep. So basically it just punishes your opponents for removing Signy off your field by milling them a little bit.
Yeah, and everything is black when this card's on the field.
Yeah, so it's gonna work, yeah.
Yeah, so that won't fail to go off. Life Burst, banish target level 2 or less Signy on your opponent's field. That's hilarious if it has Shadow. Like, oh, not only can you not do anything to me, but bye-bye.
Yeah, it's
That's funny.
It is pretty funny. It's just a very simple life burst, but actually probably one of the more effective ones.
Target level 2 or less Signy on your opponent's field.
Doesn't matter about the cost. All it matters is it's level 2 or less. As we all know, that the highest limit that you can get is 8, which means that there's always going to be a level 2.
There will always at least be one level 2. Yep. Well, getting up into your higher turns, yeah.
Yep.
All right. I don't know how to pronounce this next one. Do we know what one this is? Well, first of all, it's a multicolor. It's a blue and green, level 1 Signy with 5,000 power vanilla. Do we know what element this is?
I don't know what element TC is.
TC.
Or how I can make the joke. I was hoping it was going to be like TN or something, so I could be like, Tennessee.
Tennessee. No. Nope.
Total cost.
Did you just say total cost?
Total cost.
Oh, we're just going to make up our own anagrams now. It's TC, natural element.
It stands for Tiffany Champion.
Oh, I like that one.
Tiffany Champion.
We'll do that. Anyways, it's your basic multicolor. Now, why'd you put this one in the list?
One, it's always good to have more multicolors, right? Some decks want to have 6 multicolors in their level 1 slot to basically allow for splashes. But this one, what's its type line? What kind of signet is it?
Natural tome. Oh, it's an atom.
It's an atom. So we have Atomic right now, and Atomic is in black and blue. I don't think green atoms are really all that important until maybe next set when Mel comes out. But it is definitely something to keep watch on. It means that you can play a more varied colored atoms. It doesn't have to be black and blue now. It's probably blue and black and
or green. Yeah. All right. Yeah, actually, I think that's a really good thing to point out is just showing the expansion of tribal decks or tone decks, if we want to call them tone decks, I guess. All right, that seems to be everything on the list. Is there anything you want to add?
Well, that's everything.
That's everything. I think we were extensive today.
Yeah, we have a different video coming out that's gonna be going over the tier lists and what things move up and what things move down, as well as what are the newcomers. So check that out when it comes out. The other one is I think on this Wednesday we have a new ambience video coming out, Battle Ambience Timer.
For those of you that like Battle Ambience.
Yeah, it's specifically Welcome Back Diva.
Ooh, it's gonna be so exciting. All right, that's everything for the Life Burst podcast today. We hope you enjoyed this review of what's it called again? Welcome Back Diva. Sorry, there's so many sets of Welcome Back Diva. In the meantime, please make sure you subscribe for more podcasts like this, and may you always flip a Life Burst.
Bye!